This is shit that goes on. But it's just a little fruit pie. It's a fruit pie. It's a fruit pie. Trust me.
Me up to break me down, to build me up again. They like, Hov, we need you back so we could kill your ass again. You know, it's like this thing, this love.
In the world of hip-hop, fans are no strangers to intense rivalries and dramatic showdowns between artists. These back and forths have long been part of the culture, fueling speculation and conversation across the community. Recently, a new chapter seems to be unfolding as tension quietly builds between two titans of the music industry, Jay-Z and 50 Cent. Their long-standing dynamic, marked by subtle digs and competitive undertones, has reached a point where fans and media alike are closely watching their every move, wondering if this feud is about to erupt into something bigger.
I will let you tell it.
No, you're
No,
the
I
best.
want you to tell it.
You really are the best. You proving it here today. As much as I'm proving it, you proving it. You proving it. Yeah, that wasn't the thing. It wasn't, people say that. He lost $50 million. No, that's not even close to what happened to this dude. And until you understand what happened to the dude, you don't understand what happened. Like, no, not they offered him $50 million and he turned it down. Who gonna turn down $50 million? Now, I've had to turn down $50 million 4 times. 4 times. Just to protect my integrity and that virgin hole I was telling you about. Right. Because P. Diddy be wanting to party. And you gotta tell him no. You got to tell him no. I did. I did. See, I got the receipts for everything I'm telling you. That's why I can say them so freely.
Kid, I need another one. You here, get your number.
Thank you, sir.
The world of hip hop.
Yeah.
It's just built on this incredible energy, right?
Yeah.
Ambition, creativity, and yeah, sometimes these absolutely unforgettable rivalries.
Oh, absolutely. They're like a driving force. Pushes artists, shapes how we see things, keeps everyone talking.
Totally. And today, we're diving deep into what feels like a really high-stakes chapter playing out right now between two absolute giants, Jay-Z and 50 Cent.
Yeah, we've got a whole stack of material here, articles, interviews, comments, even some pretty wild anecdotes, honestly.
And it all points to this tension that's been simmering for a while, but lately, it feels like it's really boiling over.
Exactly. So our mission here is to kind of unpack all that, get past the headlines, you know?
See what sparks these things between guys at this level.
And what do all the little bigs, the competition, what does it tell us about success being real and the very different roads they've taken?
We're going to pull out the key stuff, the surprising bits, what might be driving them, really, so you can get a better handle on what's actually going on here.
Let's jump in. First thing, the sources make it super clear. This friction between Jay and 50, it's not new, not at all.
Right, it's described as this long-running thing. Always there in the background, these kind of subtle jabs, this competitive vibe.
Exactly. Maybe not always headline news, but the feeling was there. But now, based on what we're seeing, it feels like it's hit a new level of scrutiny. It's definitely not background noise anymore.
And you see fans, the media, everyone's watching like, is this going to blow up into something bigger?
For sure, that history, that underlying dynamic, it definitely adds weight to everything being said now, fuels the speculation.
So what kicked off this latest round, this more public phase, the sources point pretty clearly to 50 Cent.
Yeah, it sounds like he made a really bold statement. He was talking about his own journey, how he came up, and basically directly questioned Jay-Z's path to stardom.
And not just in a general way. The sources really highlight one specific claim 50 made, that a huge chunk of Jay-Z's massive success, it could be credited like significantly to his relationship with Beyonce.
Which is, I mean, that's a really pointed thing to say. The material suggests 50's view is that things really changed for Jay professionally once he and Beyonce became this power couple.
Like he leveraged her profile, her influence, and that just sped everything up for him.
That seems to be the implication, yeah. And 50 apparently didn't stop there. He even joked about it, like their combined influence meant not just awards for them.
Right, but that even their kids were getting accolades without ever releasing a song. It's sharp stuff. Definitely challenges the foundation of Jay's legacy, his top dog status.
And you know, while some might just brush it off as, oh, that's just 50 being 50, the sources hint there might be more to it, like real competitive tension, maybe some old scores to settle.
Because even with Jay-Z's undeniable success, 50 keeps finding ways to poke at him, right? Mocking him, questioning him. It's consistent.
It really is. And this is where the specific stories from the sources get kind of fascinating. Like, 50 often brings up this moment backstage at the American Music Awards.
What happened there?
Well, according to the accounts we read, Jay allegedly made some kind of subtle dig at 50 during their interaction.
And it's those little things, right? They might seem small, but they stick.
Exactly. And that fuels the idea you see in the sources. Maybe 50's constant jabs come from, well, maybe some hurt pride or just this bigger, long-standing rivalry. It feels like it's built on more than just what's happening today.
The sources also dig into other criticisms aimed at Jay-Z, not just from 50, but things discussed more widely, like his associations over the years.
Yeah, there's talk about connections with controversial figures. The R. Kelly stuff gets mentioned in passing in some broader context, but the material we focus on really zooms in on the dynamics around Diddy.
And the argument some critics make, according to these sources, is that sometimes Jay seemed to put profit, or maybe strategic partnerships, ahead of principles, or even personal relationships.
Right. The whole fallout with Dame Dash often comes up in the sources as an example. You know, the tough choices you make building an empire and maybe the cost that comes with it.
And these decisions, these partnerships, they spark debate. That's clear from the sources. Critics question his values.
While his supporters say, hey, that's just smart business. It's strategic thinking in a tough industry, not a lack of morals.
And then you get these really unique comments from 50 hitting Jay-Z's associations directly. Like, the sources mentioned 50 saying Jay acts like the big homie to someone who 50 apparently said wants to look like a gay painter.
Yeah, that's a very specific and obviously loaded way to publicly challenge someone's image, their style, who they hang with.
Which kind of leads us perfectly into another big theme in the material. 50 Cent's whole philosophy on success and being authentic. He has this phrase for it, being Diddy rich.
Right. And that phrase, as the sources explain it, it's like a key to understanding a lot of 50's criticisms, not just about Jay-Z, but about a certain kind of success he seems suspicious of.
And he contrasts it with his own approach.
Yeah, he talks about preferring a slow nickel over a fast dollar.
Okay, break that down. What's the slow nickel about for him?
Based on the sources, it's about valuing stuff like peace of mind, peace in general, community, family, building something solid, sustainable, focusing on well-being, relationships, not just quick cash.
Okay, so then being Diddy rich is the opposite. What does that mean in 50's view?
According to 50 in these sources, yeah, it represents a kind of superficial success. Maybe thinking you're bigger or better than you really are, prioritizing the outside stuff, the image, the money, over that inner peace or community connection.
And he ties it to Diddy specifically.
He does. He specifically points to Diddy changing his name so many times. Puffy, Puff Daddy, Diddy, Brother Love, Love Puffy.
And the sources explain why he makes that link.
Yeah, they connect it to his perception of a pattern, referencing things like that tragic incident in D.C. where people got trampled and the more recent Cassie allegations.
So 50 sees the name changes as a way to, reinvent or shift public perception after controversy.
That seems to be his take, yeah. Like trying to change the narrative instead of building on something consistent and authentic from the start. That's the contrast he draws with his slow nickel.
Okay, now, digging deeper into the source material, there are some pretty specific anecdotes attributed to 50 Cent. And we need to be really clear here. These are stories reported in the sources we looked at.
Right. We're not stating them as fact ourselves, but they're in the material and they're detailed. And 50 seems to use them to back up his whole Diddy rich critique.
So one story allegedly involves 50 Cent with Puff Diddy in an exotic bookstore.
Yeah, according to this account, Puff was shopping, picking things out, putting them in a brown paper bag, and 50 claims he saw butt plugs written on the packaging of some items Puff bought.
Wow. And he says he teased Puff about it.
Allegedly, yeah. And then Puff apparently asked to finish his shopping alone after that.
Okay. And there's another alleged incident mentioned in North Carolina.
Right. Again, this is 50's account as told in the sources. He claims he was at a hotel, and Puff and another rapper, the source just calls him Jow, were in a room.
Okay.
And Jow's cousin apparently showed up unexpectedly. 50 says he stopped the cousin from going into the room, physically held him back.
And then what allegedly happened?
According to 50's story in the source, while he was holding the cousin back, Puff and Jow ran out of the room. completely naked.
Seriously.
That's the account. And the source quotes Zhao as supposedly saying right then, there was a lot of frickin' going on.
Okay, again, these are really striking, explicit stories reported in the source material attributed to 50 Cent.
Definitely. And the sources also mentioned something about Jimmy Henchman, stating he was supposedly questioned by the feds 9 times back in 2011.
About what?
According to the sources, agents allegedly asked Henchman what he knew about Sean Puffy Combs or Diddy having sex with an underage boy.
Wow, back in 2011.
Yeah. The sources suggest this means the feds had reports or allegations even then, and were maybe looking for info from Henchman, potentially offering leniency. It mentions the different outcomes for him and his brother around that time.
Okay, let's broaden the view a bit. The sources also bring in some outside commentary, another perspective. Cuba Gooding Jr. is mentioned.
Right. And according to the source, he says he actually only met Diddy maybe 2 or 3 times. He sounds surprised to be connected to Diddy's current situation because their interaction was so minimal.
How did he meet him, according to his account?
Through his girlfriend at the time, Claudine Darrow. She's Robert De Niro's daughter-in-law. Gooding Jr. says in the source that Claudine used to do Diddy's publicity, helped him reshape his image after some legal trouble he was acquitted of.
So she worked on his image.
Yeah, Gooding Jr. relays Diddy telling Claudine he needed help specifically with white folks and making that switch away from a negative public perception.
Interesting. And Gooding Jr. also mentions a photo.
Yeah, something about a picture taken on Diddy's boat. He feels it might have been cropped misleadingly. Like it was one of those live photos. If you saw the whole thing, there were lots of other people around, but the crop made it look sordid or different.
He also apparently had a brief chat with 50 Cent about supporting black entertainers.
Yes, just adding another layer to these industry connections and conversations mentioned in the sources.
And Gooding Jr. offers a take on hip-hop legacies, too.
He does. According to the source, he talks about Tupac almost reverently, calls him a revolutionary rapper turning into a movie star, dropping classics like Me Against the World, All Eyes on Me, setting standards.
And how does he see Jay-Z in contrast?
His view, again from the source, is that Jay-Z is currently in a real safe space, hasn't really dealt with his own issues, which kind of echoes some of those earlier critiques about authenticity, maybe playing it safe once you reach a certain level.
So putting all this together, the history, 50 specific criticisms, the Diddy Rich idea, those wild anecdotes, the outside comments, how did the sources frame this whole thing between Jay and 50? It feels like way more than just an argument.
Definitely. The sources really suggest it's a clash, a battle of egos, sure, but maybe more importantly, a clash of philosophies about what success is, what authenticity means, how you move through this industry.
You've got Jay-Z, kind of portrayed as the empire builder, measured moves, big strategic alliances, that polished business image.
And then 50 Cent, who the sources show as rising through defiance, aggression, that raw, maybe brutal honesty, not afraid to challenge the system, challenge the big names.
And this whole feud, the sources suggest, it pushes us to ask bigger questions about hip-hop culture itself, like what really defines success? Is it just raw talent and hustle?
Or is it about playing the game, aligning with the right power players, even if that means, well, compromising sometimes?
And the sources also float the idea that maybe 50's constant critiques aren't just about rivalry or philosophy. Maybe it's also about his own frustrations.
Yeah, like frustration with the industry hierarchy, wanting to make sure his own impact, his own place isn't forgotten or overshadowed by these huge empires, asserting his legacy.
So ultimately, the picture the sources paint is that this conflict between these two icons, it reflects these bigger ongoing tensions in hip-hop about credibility, about legacy, about staying true to yourself in this massive, complex industry.
Yeah, the sources basically conclude this isn't going away soon. It's fueled by pride, by reputation, by these really different ways of looking at success and being real. It's less like a simple fight, more like a public chess game between two masters.
Absolutely. And given everything we've sort of laid out from these sources, the strategies, the sharp words, the allegations, these clashing ideas about success and authenticity, it really leaves you with a big question to chew on after we wrap up.
In this incredibly high-stakes music world, as we've seen it presented here, can that massive global commercial success truly exist alongside what people see as raw, genuine authenticity? Or, inevitably, does achieving one mean you have to sacrifice some of the other?